Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. That's right, it's that time again. It's Friday night, so let's play some Magic. This week's Friday Night Magic at Home event is Historic Artisan, which is, in my opinion, one of the best budget formats out there. Not only does it eliminate the need for those difficult to acquire rare and mythic wildcards and put you on a level, even playing ground with everyone else, but gives you the full use of your historic collection, which, as you know, is a focus for us on this channel to develop that historic collection even in your first year, so that you get a bit of a, if you'll excuse the pun, jumpstart on the historic format. We don't want to get left behind on that or be content to only start playing historic after year 2 or year 3.
But before we get into all that, I've set a goal here for the channel to get to 100 subscribers. And while that does not seem like a lofty goal, I can't do it without you. So if you're finding any sort of technical value, any sort of entertainment value, or just are a giving sort of soul, please take a moment and subscribe to the channel. And again, if you're seeing the value, others probably will too. So be sure to push this out to a friend who may or may not play Arena yet, because hopefully my content is just the sort of thing that beginners need in order to get a leg up on the environment. And here we are, just a couple months into that goal, and we are already over halfway. That's right, at the time of this recording, we have hit 51 subs, and our goal was to hit 100 by the end of the year. So hurrah to us. I'm considering this a major success and victory. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of you out there who have assisted with this, particularly those folks that you see on our screen, our subscribers who have taken the initiative not only to subscribe to the channel, but also made their subscription public. So thank you to each and every one of you. If you have chosen to keep your subscription private, I respect that. And I'm so glad to have you here. And while I have your attention, don't forget to tap the notification bell and make sure that you are being notified of all the possible content that we're bringing out there to you, so you never miss out on a thing.
Now, there are some ban cards for this event, and it looks like we're going to have a pretty fair, even playing field. Most of the really troublesome or overpowered decks look like they are not going to be included. The one possible exception that might be an issue is adventures. So if you do happen to have a full set of the Lucky Clover, adventure might be a way to go on this from a budget perspective. But my recommendation is to start building up one of the classic budget historic decks, and that of course is Blue White Skies. Now, I built the deck this week with a little different premise. If you've been paying much attention at all to the channel here, excuse me, over the last couple weeks, you know that Jumpstart June has been a tremendous focus for us. So this week's deck is built with the premise that you have managed to draft or play the Jumpstart deck, Mono White Feathered Friends. And that is used to augment our existing standard collection to give you a more aggressive historic deck. And of course, Fairy Godmother is part of our new player experience in standard, and I know everyone has at least 3 copies of that. Healer's Hawk is one of the additions from our Jumpstart deck, and really a tremendous card for us to add to our collection. If you have not done Jumpstart, I don't at this time recommend using wild cards to replace these cards. You simply have things in your standard collection that will work nicely to replace those. Moment of Triumph is one of those cards that we added to our collection for our mono white deck. And you should already have that in your collection. Sky Tether is another one of those Jumpstart cards that is just tremendous in this deck. Because all of our creatures are flying and all of our aggro is going to be coming in the air. Sky Tether is a 1 mana removal enchantment that just does so much for this deck. Not only does it stop them from blocking us completely, because again, everything is coming in the air, but if the target was also a viable threat, it now has Defender. Zephyr Gall is one of those only new player experience cards, but is still totally legal in Historic, and a 4 of 1 drop with flying is a nice addition to this deck. Moment of Heroism is another one of those Jumpstart cards coming to us. Not only are you giving a creature +2/+2 at instant speed as a nice combat trick, but also picking up lifelink. Now, the most interesting card in the deck this week is Rally of Wings, and this is an official wildcard recommendation for your collection. At 2 mana at instant speed, it allows you to untap all of your creatures. Untap all of the creatures you control. Creatures you control with flying also get +2/+2 until end of turn. So if you have swung in aggressively and appear to be completely tapped out and defenseless, and your opponent does an aggressive swing back to try and take you out of the game, for 2 mana you're untapping all of your creatures and boosting them for what may very easily be a board wipe situation for them if they didn't see it coming. The other nice thing to this is it can give you a nice finisher as an alpha strike here, even if you didn't swing with quite everything, or you maybe accidentally by appearance swung with everything, and your opponent thinks they can survive your alpha strike. This gives you a nice way to close out the game where they really can't do very much about it, particularly within the combat phase where many sorceries just can't be cast. They're stuck at that point. Fairy Vandal is one of those cards from Standard right now that just gives you a nice little boost. And not only is it flying, it also has flash and makes for a nice turn 2 blocker against their 1/1 flyer coming in, or even a 1/1 ground pounder. And it boosts up every time you draw an additional card. Lofty Denial, you're absolutely going to be familiar with this from Standard. It is one of the best counter spells, particularly in blue-white skies. Staggering Insight is one of those signpost uncommons for the current Standard environment, and is somewhat a game-breaking card. If you play this early and your opponent cannot answer it, they are going to lose the game in all likelihood. A +1/+1 and a lifelink and draw extra cards is really darn nice, particularly if you also have a Fairy Vandal out. That Fairy Vandal just keeps getting bigger, and now they have 2 threats they have to deal with. Moving on to another Jumpstart card, Aerial Assault allows you to very easily dispatch any tapped creature, and if it's not tapped, how much of a threat is it to you really? In addition to that, for the bargain price of 3 mana, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with flying, which is another way of saying all of your creatures. The only thing really holding this back is sorcery speed, so you do kind of have to telegraph it before your combat phase, but still not bad at all. Dauntless Onslaught is one of those nice combat tricks to pump up 2 of your creatures and force some inequitable trades on your opponent. If you are up against an opponent that is running quite a few flying creatures, this is a nice way to force those creatures back off the battlefield, i.e. the graveyard. Ardenvale Tactician is one of those standard legal cards right now, and because of the adventure component, has a virtual built-in card advantage. Using its instant speed dizzying swoop, you can tap up to 2 target creatures. And again, reserving that for those flying creatures that can actually block you makes this an invaluable card to be using. The nice thing is it fits very well into a mana curve at 2 on the instant speed and then 3 for the actual creature itself. My personal like on this is to hold something like this up for turn 5 when I have a lot of flying creatures already going across the board, tapping down their probably 2 potential blockers, and then in second main phase putting down an additional threat. Warden of Evos Isles we're all familiar with from the new player experience exclusive cards. Creatures with flying cost 1 less to cast, and of course this is a 2/2 flyer in and of itself. Going back to that additional card draw that we saw with Fairy Vandal and how beneficial that can be, we have included the 3 copies of Winged Words that I knew you received in your new player experience. It drops the mana cost down simply for having a creature with flying, which we're almost certain to have, and allows you to draw 2 cards. Archon of Absolution is one of those prison type cards, meaning it punishes your opponent for doing the things that they want to do. Dropping this on turn 4 can just about shut down your opponent's deck. They can either fight the remainder of the game with the creatures they have in play and paying 1 mana for each one of those to attack, or they can forego oftentimes being able to attack you and are then forced to use their mana to try and bring out new threats. And if they don't have blockers with flying, not being able to attack with their creatures is making them pretty much useless. Inspired Charge is another one of those cards we added to our historic collection through a common wild card way back sometime earlier this year. It is absolutely fantastic for 4 mana and is another one of those finishing cards, much like Rally of Wings. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn, making it ideal for both offense and defensive purposes. The Avenger Master is one of those cards that we do pick up in the Jumpstart collection. Not only is it a 4/3 flyer for 5, when it enters the battlefield you gain 2 life for each creature you control with flying. Now the nice thing about this is often it's going to be a win more card, because probably by turn 5 you have virtually won the game. But if it is very tight, if your opponent has gotten in a lot of damage to you on the ground or something like that, this will very often buy you that extra turn or perhaps 2 to go ahead and close out the game. Sarah Angel, I remember when I first started playing, this was one of the best cards in the game. Keywords were just not thrown around the way they were now, and to have a fairly on-rate creature, a 4/4 for 5, with 2 keywords, flying and vigilance, this was just a powerhouse, because vigilance early on in the history of the game basically functioned as 2 creatures, because you could swing with it and still hold it back for defense, making it remarkably powerful. Windstorm Drake is one of our last additions here. 5 mana makes it one of our finishers, and the mana cost is also the reason we are only running 2 copies. 2 copies which I know you got in your new player experience. But a 3/3 flyer is not a great rate for 5 mana, but the fact that it pumps other creatures you control with flying +1/+0. Like I said, on turn 5 you drop this and swing with your present board state, and you have a good shot of finishing the game there. So we've got Windstorm Drake, Inspire Charm, and Rally of Wings all in there as late game finishers. From Standard, I've also included 2 copies of Idyllic Grange. being able to play this late and get that +1/+1 counter on a creature, maybe something like the Zephyr Goal, or a neglected Fairy Vandal, something of that sort, or even an Ardenvale Tactician, gives you a nice little boost on your creatures. Thriving Heath is one of the staple commons that has come out of the Jumpstart environment, giving you another 2-color source at the expense of coming into the battlefield tapped. This is also a great addition to your collection, because unlike Tranquil Grove, which is fixed as white and blue, Thriving Heath can be paired with any other colors, and you choose the corresponding second color as it comes into play, making it a much more versatile addition to your historic collection. So that pretty much wraps up the deck. I think you are familiar, if you've been around the channel for a while, of exactly how to play a Blue-White Skies deck. Basically what you do is just completely ignore any ground pounders that are out there and continuously swing and build your Air Force until you just overwhelm them with aggro. A little bit of control from the blue aspects and a little bit of card draw also from that blue aspect gives you a nice standing power for the mid-range game. But that's the deck. I hope that you have everything that you need to put this together. Hopefully you have been able to pick up that Jumpstart Feathered Friends deck. If you haven't, again, I don't recommend using wild cards to complete this deck, with the exception of the Singleton Rally of Wings. Instead, reach towards your existing standard Blue-White Skies deck and fill in the blanks from there.
Wait, what's that? You didn't catch all that? Well, Matt wants you to know the links are in the doobly-doo. But let's not forget that the main reason that we are so interested in these Friday Night Magic at Homes is the 2 free rare or better ICRs that you get for winning just 2 matches. That's right, 1 ICR per win for the first 2 wins. It just doesn't get better return than that on Magic Arena. And while I am not a big cosmetics guy, I know a lot of you out there are really into the cosmetics, and the Friday Night Magic at Home is a great opportunity for you to partner with your local game store during these troubling and difficult times and receive a code to get 2 free cosmetics items that could be anything from card cosmetics to avatars to sleeves. Really a great opportunity to get those little special freebies that for some of us make the game more fun. And with all that having been said, please take this opportunity to like, comment, and subscribe. It is the budget way to support this budget channel because it doesn't cost you a thing. Do it for Graham. Do it for the algorithm. Do it for the iced coffee. And until next time, I'll see you in the arena.